Absolutely. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. So, just to preface the question on the war on terror, let me just make clear that I consider myself to be an anti-feminist. And the reason is I believe that feminism is a very corrosive and destructive ideology. I think what Sister Zara and Fatima have said is absolutely true, that Islam and feminism are separate and in many ways not compatible. But I go even further to say that feminism is anti-Islamic, anti-Muslim. And the fact of the matter is that feminism is one of the most influential ideologies that's negatively impacting the faith of Muslims around the world, and has been used to attack Muslims and continues to be used to attack Muslim societies and Islam. And I think that, as has been mentioned already, the reason that some Muslims find feminism attractive is because they see that Islam and feminism overlap, or seemingly overlap, in some areas. Feminism advocates respect for women, and Islam advocates respect for women. Feminism advocates for women's rights in some sense, and Islam advocates for women's rights, depending on what those rights are and whether they're legitimate or not. So there are these overlaps, but we can't ignore all the areas where feminism is contrary to Islam and is in fact anathema to Islam. And I think there are three main areas that we have to focus on. And I'm going to touch on these three areas probably more than once in the course of this webinar. But number one, the central pillar of feminism is this idea of patriarchy. Namely, this idea that all of history, since the dawn of time, men have been working together in a sort of conspiracy to subjugate women for their own benefit. And that there are these patriarchal structures of power that systematically favor men over women. And you can internalize patriarchy, and patriarchy affects our language and our systems of thought. And so, but this idea of patriarchy is highly problematic to Islam, because our Prophet, peace be upon him, was a man. All the Khulafa al-Rashidun were men. All the major schools of thought were founded by men. All the major works of tafsir, of kalam, of fiqh, and so on and so forth, these were all primarily done by men, which is not to say that there weren't any female scholars in our tradition. There certainly were, but the vast majority were men. So this is seen as a big problem according to the feminist philosophy, and many Muslim feminists have a major issue and a problem with the Islamic tradition for precisely this reason. And the fact that Islamic scholarship is dominated by men means that we have to be suspicious of Islamic scholarship and the Islamic tradition as far as feminism is concerned. So these feminists attack, okay, and they try to undermine the Islamic tradition. They attack the Quran. You have Muslim feminists, not all Muslim feminists, but you have some who will attack the Quran and will say we have to say no to the Quran, right? And that's a direct quote from one of the most prominent Muslim feminists, that in some cases, in some contexts, it is appropriate to say no to the Quran. And you have Muslim feminists who are attacking the Anbiya, the prophets. You have so many Muslim feminists who are attacking all aspects of Islamic law, the Sharia, and all aspects of fiqh and the tradition as a whole. So this idea of patriarchy is very corrosive to Islam and to Muslim society. So that's one. The second thing is that feminism also attacks the family and attacks the home. And Islam is a religion that really emphasizes the importance of family and the importance of the home. The home is the central hub of a Muslim's life. And the family, the extended family, is the central institution of a Muslim's life and of Muslim society. But in the modern world, that's no longer the case, unfortunately. And that's in large part because of feminism and how feminism has attacked the family. But you know, I hopefully don't need to emphasize how important family is in Islam. How often Allah mentions in the Quran, and the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned maintaining ties of kinship, silat rahim, how we are told to respect and honor our parents, how we're supposed to respect and honor our mothers, especially, and our fathers. But these are institutions that feminism attacks, sometimes in very overt ways and sometimes in much more subtle ways. Feminists call motherhood bondage, especially in the first wave of feminism, and the second wave of feminism, and now in the third wave. Motherhood is seen as a big problem. Fatherhood, the father is a patriarch. Father should be seen with suspicion, right? Parents need to be wary of even having children, which is why birth control and abortion are so emphasized within feminist discourse, because children are a burden. And children also should be wary of their parents, especially their fathers. So all of this is attacking the family and the institution of the family, which is so important within Islam. And so we can see a very direct clash, and we can see the effects of this in the Muslim world. So that's the second thing about feminism. And the third thing is that feminism has been used as a tool against Muslim society in the past and in the present, in terms of colonialism, and even today in terms of programs that are being exported into the Muslim world in order to re-educate Muslims, you know, quote unquote, re-educate them, and to influence the way that Muslims form their families and the way that society is structured. So feminism has been used as a tool to further colonialism, to further occupation, to justify invasions, to justify wars against Muslims for over 100 years. And so we have to be aware of that reality. We have to be aware of that history and how it's being continued even up to this day. So given these 3 points, it's very clear how feminism is anti-Muslim, it is anti-Islam, and we need to be very aware of this and not just have this naive view that, okay, feminism is something that can be accommodated, even though, as I mentioned at the beginning, and Sister Zara also mentioned, that there are some areas of overlap. But does that overlap mean that we should just accept the concept wholesale? Islam overlaps with many other ideologies like communism that was mentioned, or other ideologies that are anti-Islam. So we have to be aware of this.